there are, which has to be completed. So, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We are today going to discuss the physiology of memogenesis, lectogenesis, galactokinesis, and galactopoiesis. Physiology of lactation can be divided into 5 stages. One is the memogenesis, development of tears udder or in a human being's breast to a functional state. Lactogenesis is a synthesis and secretion of milk from the breast or alveoli, and then the galactokinesis is the ejection of milk outside the breast or teats. Galactopoiesis is a maintenance of lactation, and the last stage, which is the dry up of cow or a buffalo. There's a regression or a atrophy post lactation, which takes place as in a last stage of the lactation period, and in which the dry up of a milk takes place, and then the next lactation starts after a birth of a next calf or a next calving. So mostly when we say the lactation, it means the start of a calving. So from a first day of a calving, the lactation starts, and mostly the memogenesis starts from the birth towards the functional state, which may achieved at the stage of a parturition, and then during the lactation memogenesis still continued. But the most probably 100% memogenesis or the development of the udder entities takes place during the pregnancy and after the parturition. The memogenesis mostly it starts from the growth of ducts, lobular alveolar systems, and this starts from a birth to puberty and continues in pregnancy. So ductal sprouting predomination in first trimester, and the lobular sprouting occurs more in the second trimester, as the breast will contain more glandular epithelial cells than stroma. Just before and during parturition, there is a new way of a mitotic activity causing a growth and maturation of the udder and teats. Hormonal influence during the memogenesis occurs during a prepubertal growth, depends on the estrogen and progesterone, secretion of a prolactin and somatotropin by the pituitary glands results in a mammary gland growth. Adenocorticotropic hormone and thyroid stimulating hormone acting on the adrenal glands and thyroid glands also play a minor role in growth of a mammary glands. When the hypophyseal ovarian uterine cycle is established, there is an extensive branching of a duct system and a parenchymal proliferation and canalization of the lobulo-alveolar units controlled by estrogen and progesterone. During pregnancy, in early pregnancy, a marked increase in the ductular sprouting, branching, and lobular formation is evoked by luteal and placental hormones. Progesterone causes increased growth of a alveolar size and lobes. Estrogen stimulates the milk duct system to grow and differentiate deposition of fat. Prolactin contributes to increase growth and differentiation of the alveoli and ductal structures. Types of the lobules: type 1, virginal lobules, under puberty lobules, when an average of 2 alveolar bursts, ductules clusters around the terminal duct. This is apparent within 1 to 2 years after onset of in the human menses, and it is onset of a first puberty. The type 2 are changing levels of estrogen and progesterone during maturation cycles stimulate the type 1 lobules to spout a new lobular burst and evolve to a mature structure. Type 2 is a 47 lobules, whereas the type 3 in a pregnancy having a 80 lobules, and type 4 attended in a late pregnancy with a breast milk. These are the intrastructure of a mammary gland's lobular system. The lobes, lobule, and alveolus. The internal components, lobes, separated by adipose tissues. The lobes divided into lobules, cluster of a graph. Each lobule is surrounded by connective tissue contain alveoli, microscopic sacs. Each alveolus is lined with milk-producing epithelial cells and is surrounded by muscle cells that's known as a myoepithelial and contains a network of blood and lymph capillaries. Mostly the internal structure of the mammary glands having a duct system which starts from the milk from epithelial cells is collected in alveolar lumen. Then it is transported to intracalary ducts. Intracalary ducts is providing intracellular okay, that will come down. Okay, lactiferous duct, and then the lactiferous duct provides the milk to a gland cistern, and the gland cistern provides the milk towards the teat cistern, where from the streak canal gives the exit to the milk. So it starts from alveolus, and then it is coming down to the terminal ductules, and connective tissue is separating the lobules. The Lobules are giving it the intralobular connective tissue is there, which is giving the duct system, the alveolar lumen, and then the intracalary duct, then the intralobular duct, and then intralobular duct provides the lactiferous duct, and then the Glenn cistern. The Glenn cistern provides the milk towards the uh, teat cistern. So the teat cistern again give a exit to the milk at a streak canal, where from we do the milking. So these are the branches which is shown over here. These are the lobules, and the grape-like structure will develop on these branches, where this bunch has to show that these are the milk secretory cells, which is providing the milk to the ducts, milk ducts, and then the Glenn cistern has to receive the milk, and the annular ring has to open it and then provide the milk towards the teat cistern, and the teat cistern is providing and expelling the milk from the streak canal, and the sphincter, which is the opening of the teat, is giving an opening to the milk to exit or eject the milk. So the lactogenesis are the milk synthesis and secretion. The lactogenesis is in a stage 1 occurs in the mid-pregnancy. There is a initiation of a milk synthesis, and alveoli differentiate into a secretory cells. Prolactin stimulates the mammary secretory cells to produce milk. Insulin and serum growth factors induce the cell division of the stem cells of glands, and presence of a cortisol for formation of a alveoli is required for induction of milk synthesis. Further differentiation is inhibited by a high levels of a progesterone from the placenta and loss of a progesterone receptors in the lacting breast. The prolactin exerts its effects through receptors of a initiation of a milk secretion located on the alveolar surface, stabilize and promote the transcription of a messenger RNA, and stimulate the synthesis of a lactoalbumin, which is a regulatory protein of the lactose synthesis enzyme system, and increase the lipoprotein activity in the mammary glands. In conjunction with the estrogen and progesterone, it attracts and retains immunoglobulin A, immunoblast. Estrogen enhances the prolactin production by a 10 to 20 fold, and this is regulated by the human placental lactogen, which has an inhibitory effect. It's inhibited by the prolactin inhibiting factor under the control of a catecholamines in the hypothalamus. So the lactogen stage 2 starts from the late pregnancy to day 8, means after parturition. This is triggered by the rapid drop of progesterone levels after the placental delivery. It is well established that when there is a parturition, then almost the estrogen level increases and the progesterone level has to decrease. So this initiated and this triggered the lactogenesis. So that requires the presence of a elevated levels of a prolactin and cortisol, insulin, growth hormone, and parathyroid hormones to facilitate the mobilization of nutrients and minerals. So mostly the prolactin, cortisol, insulin, growth hormones, parathyroid hormones um, mobilizes the lactogenesis, and mostly the minerals and nutrients are being supplied to the mammary glands to produce the milk or synthesize the milk. This is a switch from endocrine to autocrine control. Now, at this moment, the endocrine has to transfer towards autocrine control so that the lactogenesis has to is initiated. There is a 5 pathways by which the milk secretion by the mammary epithelial cells takes place. One is the exocytosis. The milk protein and the lactose are transported in the Golgi-derived secretory vesicles with the water and electrolytes into the alveolar lumen. Then the reverse pinocytosis, lipid from formed in the smooth orthocyte reticulum forms droplets and converts by the phospholipids membranes and transported as a milk fat globules. Apical transport, which is the direct movement of the monovalent ions, waters, and glucose across the apical membranes of the cell. The transcytosis, the sodium, potassium chloride, and some monosaccharides and water is transported. The paracellular pathways for some interstitial fluids components and the leukocytosis to pass by a diapedesis through a tight junction. So this is the milk pathways for milk secretions by the mammary epithelial cells. There is a exocytosis, a reverse pinocytosis, apical transport, transcytosis, and paracellular pathways. All these 5 pathways is involved in the uh, formation or a synthesization and transportation of a milk. So the biosynthesis of a milk components, that is the biosynthesis of milk components occurs in the mammary epithelial cells. The precursor are provided from a blood. Then 1 liter of a milk requires 500 liters of a milk to circulate through a mammary gland. So the precursors of a 1 liter is provided for a milk to produce or synthesize a 1 liter of milk. So the 500 liters of a milk has to be circulated through mammary glands. Then the 1 liter of the milk will be synthesized. The fat biosynthesis will take place, protein biosynthesis and the lactose biosynthesis take place in the for the formation or a synthesis of the milk components. These are the major components which is coming down to the lumen, and then they are the direct movements through a transporters. The lipids droplets are coming down, then the exocytotic secretions takes place, the vesicular transcytosis takes place, and paracellular transportation takes place in the animal. So that the fatty acids are provided from a blood plasma when the blood is circulating through a udder. The 50% of the lipids or the fatty acids are provided by the blood plasma, whereas the 50% of the uh, fatty acids, milk fatty acids, are synthesized by the mammary glands. The 50% of the lipid which is provided from a blood, the lipid, 80% of the lipid is coming down. That is the original of a dietary fats or fatty acids, whereas the lipid from adipose tissues is a 20%. So the 50% is from a 50%, 80% is uh, uh, converted from a dietary nutrients to fatty acids, and then the 20% is developed from adipose tissues. So the milk fat biosynthesis takes place by a dietary lipids, saturated and unsaturated mostly has to be received, and mostly a long chain fatty acids are C16 or C18 fatty acids are taken into the milk for the biosynthesis of milk. In the rumen, the rumen microbes biohydrogenate unsaturated fatty acids. Most dietary fats reaching the interstitial cells, epithelial cells are saturated fatty acids. The milk biosynthesis, which is synthesized in the mammary glands that occurs in the cytoplasm of the mammary cells, most of short and medium chain fatty acids C4 and C12 are synthesized in de novo, whereas the precursor is beta hydroxybutyrate and acetate, and stepwise addition of a acetate is C2 to a beta hydroxybutyrate. So mostly the fatty acids which are developed in the mammary glands, that is the short chain fatty acids, whereas the long chain are received from the blood plasma. A summary of a milk fatty acids biosynthesis is the diet. The carbohydrate provides through a blood the acetate and a beta hydroxybutyrate, that is from a C4, there is a 0 to C14 might be ratio is 0, so that the C16 is also from this area from a carbohydrates of the diet, whereas the C16 also being received from the fat, mainly from the fatty acids from adipose tissues. So 20. So the fatty acids provided by a blood, that is the C16 or a C4, C14 or a C18 from a fatty acids of a adipose tissues. Whereas the epithelial cells, that's the fat droplets is migrating, and that is coming down to a Golgi apparatus bodies, and that is being converted, and the arthrocyte reticulum is providing that one, and the droplets is coming down to the lysosomes, and then it crosses the epithelial cells, and then it is provided to the duct system to be excreted. So this is the movement which is shown over here. The milk protein biosynthesis. The milk protein are synthesized from amino acids in the ribosomes. So the rough endoplasmic reticulum. There are 18 amino acids in the milk. The milk contains more essential amino acids than any other natural food. So that this is the main source of a protein. The milk is a main source of a protein. So therefore, the other foods do not contain 18 amino acids in the food. So therefore, the whenever the baby is given to a milk, that is giving it a strength and as well as immunity. So the similar to any other protein, the requirements is ribosomes, messenger RNA, transmembrane RNA, and ATPase. So this is the requirement to protein for the biosynthesis of the protein. The milk protein is um, received as in casein 18%, and then the non-casein way 20%. The 20% non-casein is beta globulin 10%, alpha lactoalbumin 4%, and serum albumin immunoglobulin is 5% in it. So milk protein is not only a casein, but it is also a non-casein, which is a beta lactoglobulin, alpha lactoalbumin, and serum albumin. So this is giving a immunoglobulins, which provides the immunity to the baby. So the colostrum is the most important to be fed to the baby, so that they may have to receive a more immunity. So the protein, milk protein biosynthesis is immune globulins or antibodies found in the colostrum, enters the mammary cell from food, and appears in the colostrum unchanged. So therefore, the colostrum is the main product which should be provided to the babies, so that they have to get antibodies from a mother, and they develop their immune system again against the diseases. So those babies which is fed with the colostrum and the first milk of the mother, they have a good immunity to defend themselves, and the maternal immunity is transferred to the offsprings or babies through a cholesterol. So the lactose biosynthesis, that is, the glucose is absolutely essential for a lactose biosynthesis. Blood glucose level in a ruminant is half that is in a non-ruminant. So the 45 to 60% of the blood glucose in a ruminant from gluconeogenesis. The lactose, uh, propionate, propionate, then the glucogenic amino acids, that is converted through a gluconeogenesis pathway into a glucose. The milk laydown are galactokinesis, refractory period to oxytocin and adrenaline interference. The galactokinesis depends on the suckling mechanism of the baby and the contractile action which will express the milk from alveoli into the ducts. This contraction is brought about by the action of a oxytocin. Milk laid down reflects the milk ejection, milk reflux that is inhibited by a psychic condition that might be due to a pain or a breast engorgement. So whenever the babies or whenever the calf or the kittens causes the pain into the teeth, they are reducing the milk lay down. Therefore, the massage or the touch is initiating to produce the oxytocin and lay down the milk. So the oxytocin is released from a posterior lobe of the pituitary gland during a nipple stimulation or sensory stimulation, visual, tactile, or olfactory or auditory. These are the four sensory stimulations which may cause the ejection of the milk. So causes of ejection of a milk from the alveoli gland by a contraction of the myoepithelial cells into the ductules and the ducts. During the suckling, a condition reflex is set up, ascending impulses from a nipple and areola, that is a thoracic sensory 4, 5, 6 afferent neural arc stimulated, and paraventricular supraoptic nuclei of the hypothalamus stimulates the pituitary posterior pituitary gland. So that the oxytocin from the posterior pituitary produce the contraction of a myoepithelial cells of the alveoli, and the ducts containing the milk is ejected and milk is laid down so that the reflex is produced by the oxytocin. So milk is forced down into a ampulla of a lactiferous ducts where forms it can be expressed by the mother or sucked by the baby. This occurs between 30 seconds to 60 seconds. So the laydown of the milk is mostly takes place after a suckling, that is in producing the impulse, serif, and then the hypothalamus is through a neuro paraventricular system. It affects on the hypothalamus, and the hypothalamus, the hypophyseal, that is releasing the oxytocin. The hypophyseal posterior provides the oxytocin into the blood vessels, and the blood vessel carries the oxytocin, and that oxytocin is affecting on the contraction of a myoepithelial cells of the udder, and it allows the milk to lay down into the ducts, and the milk is ejected from the ducts by the suckling method. So the lactation reflexes affects by the stimulation and suckling arc, and then there is also the oxytocin when it is releases from a hypothalamus. It affects on the contraction of the breast, and as well as it is affecting on the uterus. So the intraperitoneal intra innervation or a stimulation, that is because of the hormonal mechanism and the neural mechanism and autonomic internal uh, induct, and as well as somatic, uh, the external or a suckling method is affecting the lay down of or ejection of the milk. Mostly the baby, whenever the calf is performing a suckling, it is initiating the release of the oxytocin, and as well as it is initiating the drop of a milk, and then the babies are suckling the milk. But mostly in the cows, buffaloes, sheep and goat, we are doing a milk by the milking method. So we have to first of all that we are injecting the oxytocin, or we are leaving the babies to suckle, and then separate the babies from sucking from the cow or a buffalo, and then we are performing the milking by hand. So mostly we perform first of all massaging the teats, the removing the dirt and cleaning it, and then performing the method of uh, the milking. So we have to allow first of all from a sphincter, so that it may lay down the milk into a cistern teat, and then we pushes the cistern teat so that it may have to eject the milk from a string canal and a sphincter, and then we have to receive the milk into the bucket. So this is the milking method which ejects the milk from the cow, buffalo, or goat, sheep. So milk ejection always takes place when there is a stimulation by a suckling, or by a massaging, or even we attaches the uh, cups of a milking machines with the teats. It is also performing a massaging of the teats, which stimulates the um, the nervous system, which is allowing the hypothalamus is allowing oxytocin into the blood, which stimulates the. This is the stimulation which is uh, uh, posterior pituitary gland has received. Then it is uh, giving a release of a oxytocin into the jugular vein, and then the oxytocin is coming down into the heart, and then it is coming down through a vena cava into the inferior vena cava, and it is received by the udder, and it is affecting on the myoepithelial cells to release the milk into the ducts, and then the contraction of the alveoli, that is due to myoepithelial cells has to be contracted, and then it is giving a milk to be to the channelize. The release of the milk into the duct system takes place after the effect of the oxytocin on the myoepithelial cells, which gives the contraction and then relaxation, which allows the milk the on the contraction, and then the relaxation. So it lay down the milk into the from the lobes into the lobule, and then the alveolus, which is giving into the ductus system the milk, and then we are receiving the uh, milk into the gastric canal. So the posterior pituitary gland, uh, on the stimulation of the mammary glands, it affects on through a spinal cord. It messaging neural pathway hypothalamus is messaging to the hypothalamus to release the oxytocin. So the neuroendocrine cells synthesize the oxytocin, which is on the stimulation. The pituitary posterior gland or a neurohypophyseal is releasing the oxytocin into the capillaries, which is coming down to the udders. So oxytocin is released into the blood, and then oxytocin is stored in the nerve terminal. Stimulation of a nerve releases the oxytocin in the capillaries, and oxytocin on the contraction of a release of a myoepithelial cells in the blood ejects the milk laid down and causes the milk from the alveoli to release into the glands, and then also causes the stimulation of the cervix at the parturition time and the cortisol, and it is on the uterus. So the prolactin the secreted from the interior pituitary gland, that's in the mammals, mammary glands development and milk production is taken place by the effect of the prolactin hormone. So the receptors are everywhere and induces the mammary gland growth in the rabbits, rodents, humans, and maintenance in the dogs, rodents, and shrimps. So the chickens depresses the luteinizing hormone, follicular stimulating hormone causes the broodings, whereas the blocks of a growth releasing hormone, gonadotropin releasing hormone, is stopping the ovulation of the cycle. Now, the galactopoiesis, which is the maintenance of the lactation, the prolactin is the hormone for a maintenance of a lactation. And suckling is essential for maintenance of a milk secretion. Periodic breastfeeding releases the pressure in the ducts and promotes a more secretion. So the controlled by autocrine system, supply and demand system is the responsible for this maintenance of uh, the lactation or uh, so the lactation period is depends on the milking and even the duration is also depends on the release of the prolactin. The involution or apoptotic cell death and tissue remodeling post-lactation requires a combination of a lactogenic hormone deprivation and a local signals to undergo as regression and atrophy. In the involution period, the milk has to be dry and the lactating cow has to be converted into a dry cow. So this is leading towards a apoptotic cell death, and the tissue remodeling takes place whenever there is a cowing interval and the second pulsation takes place. Then again this remodeling, the repair and the regenerating of the secretory cells takes place, whereas and during the involution the cell death is the secretory cells is dying. So the variation in the composition, that's a colostrum 1 to 5 per 5 days, is a reaches in proteins, minerals, immunoglobulins, and anti-inflammatory factors. So the prostaglandin E1 and prostaglandin E2 cytokinase are phagocytosis and lymphocytes are present in the colostrum, whereas the mature milk, which is more after 30 days, the larger quantity than colostrum, and this is the mature milk which starts after 30 days of a parturition. For milk, thin proteins and lactose, water, and other nutrients are present in the foremilk, whereas the hind milk that has having a more fat there, therefore the whiter provides much of the energy of a feed. Other components include the human growth factors, cortisol, insulin, thyroxine, and prolactin. The factors affecting the lactation, maternal problems, that might be a stress, there might be a post parturient C-section if you are performing the stressful the vaginal delivery or other psychosocial stresses, use of opioids or beta endorphins are released that block the stimulation secretion and coupling, thus reducing the oxytocin release. So that might be a polycystic ovarian syndrome, which may lead towards affecting the lactation. Then the theca lutein cyst may cause the release of the oxytocin, reduce the release of the oxytocin. So therefore, the lactation will be reduced. The obesity is the one of the reason that may have to affect the lactation period. The labor analgesia, whenever there is a labor pains and you are using an analgesia, that may causes also to reduce the lactation. Um, the type 1, the mammary glands having a the mother dystocia. The placental retention increase the circulatory progesterone. The retention of a placenta also causes the reduction of the lactation, or the volume of the milk produced or synthesized is reduced whenever there is a retention of the placenta, which increase the circulation of progesterone. Therefore, the release of the oxytocin is affected, and this is affecting on the synthesis of the milk. Alcohol dependence, even the human beings are using alcohols, or the ingredients which is alcohol containing may be used in the animals. They also affects the production or a synthesis of the milk, and therefore the lactation is affected by these uh, ingredients, which are the conditions which may affect the infrequent suckling or a failure to empty the breast, also causing the elevated intramammary pressure, also disrupt the connection between the cells and their attachment to the basement membrane, disrupting the synthesis and the secretion of milk components. So the infrequent suckling or infrequent milking, if the time is not set down for a milking, it may also affects the lactation, the volume of the blood or secretion of milk components. So synthesis may be disrupted if the time is not set down for 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 the milking. So therefore, the premature infants, whenever the parturition takes place prematurely, that also affects uh, the hormone, that's a prolactin, and therefore the volume of the production of the milk or synthesis of the volume of the milk will be affected whenever there is a premature calving or a premature birth of the uh, babies. So thank you very much. This is the last slide. That you may have to contact with me, or you have to follow my lecture on Facebook. You can follow on YouTube, or even it is this lecture is also available on a stream, Microsoft Stream. So if you want to see this lecture again and again, or you have to take this PowerPoint with a description and even a elaboration or a presentation which I have performed during this lecture, you can listen it again on the stream. So this is recorded lectures are available on the Microsoft Streams and on my channel, a YouTube channel, and as well as on the Facebook. Thank you very much. Now it is open for any question. If you have any question regarding this memogenesis, electrogenesis, galactogenesis, or lactopoiesis and involution, or any query about this one, because this is actually physiology of the lactation, which I have converted into 5 stages, which I have described over here. Even I have described in this lecture the factors affecting the secretion or synthesis of the milk. So this will gives you the concept that why the milk is milk produced in a cow or a buffalo is low in the volume and why it is high in a few animals. So this is dependent on the udder development, means memogenesis. If it is a good one, the memogenesis is of a high quality, then the lactogenesis will take place. If the lactogenesis is a good one, then the lactokinesis, the ejection of the milk will take place properly. And then if you are performing a ejection of the leg down of the milk properly on a time, regularly you are emptying the other end of tears, then you will receive a longer lactation period, and then the synthesis will be a good one, having a good volume of the milk in it, and then the involution will take place, and definitely the involution is in uh, one of the calving period that will gives you a better milk on the second lactation if you have performed and maintained the other entities properly on the first lactation. Then you will receive a more improvement in the lactation period and the volume of the milk on the second lactation. And likewise, if you are maintaining and without causing a disease or any harm or injury uh, to the memory glands, you will improve the lactation of the animals. And definitely, if you are receiving a good milk, good volume of the milk, good quality of the milk from a cow or a buffalo, that that will be uh, that will be transported to the offspring. The calf of that particular buffalo or a cow will gives you a more milk if it is properly maintained, properly breeded with a high quality bull or a sire. Then you will receive a good baby or a offspring from the cow and a buffalo. And if it is maintained regularly according to the need of a hormones drives, then you will improve the lactation of the cow from one buffalo to a calf. You will transfer a good quality characteristics of a dairy animals to a offsprings if you are maintaining the animal without causing any disease to the udder. So this is most important that the buffalo or a cow, which is the dairy animals, they are only and only expensive, only and only um, good one are required to the farm whenever they are having all four teats, normal, healthy, and having a good quality and quantity of the milk. Then the price of the buffalo or the cow is determined on the basis of the production. So the good quality cows and buffaloes are sold in the higher prices, or low quality are being kept in the being sold in a low price. जेकॾहिं जब आप अपनी बफेलो और काउस का मेंटेन करोगे, अडर मेंटेन करोगे, टीट्स मेंटेन करोगे और डाइट मेंटेन करोगे और उसमें मेस्टाइटिस नहीं होने दोगे, तो देन यू विल रिसीव अ हायर क्वालिटी, अच्छा वॉल्यूम जो है ना आप अचीव करोगे और अच्छी क्वालिटी और क्वांटिटी आप अचीव करोगे मिल्क की। तो मिल्क अगर आपने लेना है तो यू हैव टू मेंटेन द अडर्स। अच्छा, अगर मेमोरी ग्लैंड्स और मेमोरी अडर आपने मेंटेन नहीं किया तो यू विल लूज द एनिमल, डेयरी एनिमल। अगर एक भी थन ज़ाया हो गया तो यू विल लॉस्ट the amount or even the price of the buffalo or a cow. So that every teat or every udder should be maintained properly so that the loss of the price, जो नुकसान है उससे बचा जाए। So maintenance of the udder, maintenance of the teats is the maintenance of a buffalo or a cow.
सर जब एक टीथ खराब हो जाए तो उसको कौन सी बीमारी कहते हो?
जब भी टीथ खराब होता है तो हम उसको मेस्टाइटिस बोलते हैं। तो मेस्टाइटिस इज नोन एज अ इन्फ्लामेशन ऑफ अडर। उसमें ऑब्स्ट्रक्शन की वजह से भी हो सकता है और इन्फेक्शन की वजह से भी हो सकता है। तो देयर इज अ नंबर ऑफ द रीजंस which may cause the mastitis.
सर मैं स्टेटस उसको नहीं बोलते जब दूध में वो खून शुरू हो जाए, या इसको भी?
There are there are stages of the mastitis, acute mastitis, chronic mastitis, और फिर ये है कि प्री क्लिनिकल mastitis होता है, क्लिनिकल mastitis होता है। तो there is a number of the stages in which different conditions develops, and all our conditions are known as the mastitis. अगर थोड़ा सा सूजन हो जाए तब भी mastitis है। अगर उसमें से दूध की गठियाँ बन रही हैं, दूध जो है ना ख़राब आ रहा है, वो भी मेस्टाइटिस है। अगर दूध बंद हो गया है और टीथ से दूध नहीं निकल रहा है तो वो भी मेस्टाइटिस है। अगर वो उसको इंजरी हो गई है और थोड़ी सी चोट लगी है, या फिर जो है ना उस पर किसी की बफेलो कभी कभी जो है ना बैठती है तो किसी और बफेलो की लात आ गई, या फिर उसमें इंजरी हो गई, तो उस स्वेलिंग को भी इन्फ्लामेशन को भी अच्छा टीथ के इन्फ्लामेशन को भी मेस्टाइटिस बोलते हैं। इवन जो है ना अगर दूध में से गठियाँ बनती हैं, खून आता है, पस आता है, उसको भी मेस्टाइटिस बोलते हैं। So any condition which is reflecting to affect the composition of the milk, or as well as on the deformity of the udder and the teats, having up 4 signs, inflammation की 4 signs हैं। अगर वो मौजूद हैं 4 signs तो उसको हम inflammation of udder या मेस्टाइटिस बोलते हैं। तो उसमें 4 साइन जो होते हैं उसमें हीट होता है, उसमें पेन होता है, मतलब और उसमें जो है ना हार्डनेस होती है, उसमें जो है ना स्वेलिंग होती है। तो ये 4 साइन कार्डियल साइंस हैं। अगर 4 ये कार्डियल साइंस मौजूद हैं तो वो मेस्टाइटिस है। मतलब स्वेलिंग हो, वहाँ पे हार्डनेस हो, वहाँ पे रेडनेस हो, और वहाँ पे पेन हो, तो उसको हम मेस्टाइटिस बोलते हैं, या उसको हम इन्फ्लामेशन बोलते हैं। कहीं पे भी
कौन
ये
सी
4
एंटीबायोटिक
साइन हो।
मास्टाइटिस जैसी होती है?
अच्छा, एंटीबायोटिक जो है वो तभी इफ़ेक्टिव होगी जब वो वहाँ पे इन्फेक्शन होगा। जैसे मैंने वो कहा कि मास्टाइटिस जो है वो बैक्टीरियल इन्फेक्शन की वजह से भी हो सकता है, वायरल इन्फेक्शन की वजह से भी हो सकता है, मैकेनिकल डैमेज की वजह से भी हो सकता है, हार्मोनल इम्बैलेंस की वजह से भी हो सकता है, रिटेंशन ऑफ यूरिन, रिटेंशन ऑफ ए मिल्क, के मिल्क की ऑब्स्ट्रक्शन हो गई उसकी वजह से भी मेस्टाइटिस हो सकता है। तो हर एक मेस्टाइटिस की ट्रीटमेंट अलग है, क्योंकि किसी भी डिजीज़ की ट्रीटमेंट के लिए पहला रूल जो प्रिंसिपल है वो है टू रिमूव द काज। जब तक आप काज रिमूव नहीं करोगे उस वक्त तक वो डिजीज नहीं जाएगी। अगर मेस्टाइटिस का काज मतलब मैकेनिकल है, कोई डैमेज हुआ है तो उस डैमेज को रिपेयर करना है। अगर वायरल है तो सिम्टोमेटिक ट्रीटमेंट होगी, क्योंकि वायरल का कोई भी ट्रीटमेंट अवेलेबल नहीं है। बैक्टीरियल है देन द एंटीबायोटिक विल वर्क। अगर वो फिजिकल है, किसी कोल्डनेस की वजह से, हार्डनेस की वजह से, और ड्यू टू केमिकल है, तो केमिकल को जो है ना आपने, मुझे जवाब तो देने दो ना बेटा। अच्छा, अगर हार्मोनल है तो दी ट्रीटमेंट विल बी दी हार्मोनल। सो अगर ऑब्स्ट्रक्टिव है तो यू हैव टू यूज द सर्जिकल इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स टू रिमूव द ऑब्स्ट्रक्शन फ्रॉम द टीथ और अडर। कभी कभार जो है ना मुंह में जो है ना उसको इंजरी होती है तो उसको रिमूव करने के लिए अगर कोई फाइब्रोसिस हो गया है, कोई टीथ बंद हो गया है, कभी कभार वहाँ पे जो है ना ये है कि जो टीथ केनाल है वो बंद हो जाता है। कभी कभार जो है ना स्ट्रीक केनाल है वो बंद हो जाता है। वी हैव टू ओपन इट बाय द यूज ऑफ ए bisturi knife, by a teat siphon or by a even a teat dilator. तो हम ये यूज करते हैं to remove the mastitis. तो mastitis के ट्रीटमेंट सर्जिकल भी है, mastitis की ट्रीटमेंट कीमोथेरापी के साथ भी की जा सकती है. इवन जो है ना हम मोस्टली जो है ना वो जो दवाइयाँ इस्तेमाल करते हैं मेस्टाइटिस में वो होम्योपैथिक भी होती हैं. इवन लोकल जो है ना लोग जो है ना अपना लोकली ट्रीट करते हैं विदाउट एनी मेडिसिन. तो देयर इज अ नंबर ऑफ रेमेडीज व्हिच इज वेरी इफेक्टिव in the treatment. So you can mostly Streptococcus aureus ये जो मोस्टली इफेक्टिव होते हैं टू काज अ मेस्टाइटिस. तो यहाँ पे पेंसिलिन ग्रुप, एम्पिसिलिन ग्रुप या फिर जो है अपना एमॉक्सिलिन, ये मोस्टली इफेक्टिव होते हैं. टेरामाइसिन भी देते हैं, ऑक्सीटेट्रासाइक्लिन भी देते हैं. ट्यूब्स, इंट्रामेमरी ट्यूब, उसमें भी एंटीबायोटिक्स आती हैं, वो इंट्रामेमरी ट्यूब भी लगाते हैं. इंजेक्शन फॉर्म में जो है ना वो एंटीबायोटिक्स जैसे मैंने कहा कि एमॉक्सिलिन LA लगाते हैं, टेरामाइसिन लगाते हैं, एनरोफ्लॉक्सिन लगाते हैं, कुछ लोग पेंसिलिन लगाते हैं, कुछ लोग जो है ना स्ट्रेप्टोमाइसिन लगाते हैं, तो एम्पिसिलिन लगाते हैं. तो अच्छा, दैट इज डिपेंडेंट ऑन द सेंसिटिविटी ऑफ द ऑर्गेनिज्म, क्योंकि अगर जो ऑर्गेनिज्म है वो जिस एंटीबायोटिक से सेंसिटिव होगा वही एंटीबायोटिक सेलेक्ट करेंगे. तो मोस्टली वी आर टेकिंग अ मिल्क सैंपल्स एंड देन कॉलोनाइज इट, उसको असेस करते हैं, उसको कोई सेंसिटिविटी टेस्ट होती है, जो एंटीबायोटिक उस पर मोस्ट इफेक्टिव होती है वही चूज करते हैं इफ इट इज अ बैक्टीरियल. जैसे मैंने कहा कि अदर फैक्टर्स भी होते हैं, उसमें ज़रूरी नहीं है कि आपकी एंटीबायोटिक काम हो. देन वी आर प्रोवाइडिंग एंटीबायोटिक और इंजेक्टिंग एंटीबायोटिक एज अ सेकेंडरी. हम सेकेंडरी इन्फेक्शन को रोकने के लिए लगाते हैं कि सेकेंडरी इन्फेक्शन ना हो. अगर ऑब्स्ट्रक्शन है तो ऑब्स्ट्रक्शन जब रिमूव की जाएगी तो मेस्टाइटिस ख़त्म हो जाएगा. लेकिन ऑब्स्ट्रक्शन रिमूव करने के बाद ये होता है कि एंटीबायोटिक जब आप नहीं इस्तेमाल करोगे तो हो सकता है कि इन्फेक्शन ना हो जाए, इसलिए आप जो है ना उसमें आप एंटीबायोटिक कवर देते हो कि सेकेंडरी इन्फेक्शन ना हो जाए. इन्फेक्शन तो है नहीं, लेकिन आपने ऑब्स्ट्रक्शन रिमूव की है, वुंड काज किया है या डायलेशन की है, तो इट मे लीड टुवर्ड्स द मेस्टाइटिस, इन्फेक्टेड मेस्टाइटिस. तो यू हैव टू यूज द एंटीबायोटिक इन सच कंडीशंस. तो एंटीबायोटिक हम हर एक कंडीशन में कभी हम प्रिवेंटिवली देते हैं फॉर प्रिवेंशन ऑफ मेस्टाइटिस, और कभी कभार हम जो है ना एज अ ट्रीटमेंट, क्यूरेटिव ट्रीटमेंट देते हैं जब वो बैक्टीरियल मेस्टाइटिस होता है. Okay, now this is the actually my time is over, so you have to join the other class. अभी फिर दूसरे की क्लास चलेगी तो you have to join there. I have taken your attendance and I am leaving and ending this meeting to join anywhere.
PPT share कर दें please.